Welcome everyone to another session on current affairs by Civils 360 IAS Academy. In this session, we will be looking into an important international organization, that is ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations. ASEAN is a very important topic for UPSC, both prelims as well as in mains. So in this session, we will be looking into ASEAN, we will be looking into another important related topic, which is the East Asia Summit as well as the India-Asean relations, that is for UPSC mains. So like I said before, whenever you study an international organization, please be take care of the background in which it was created, the context of its creation, what they aim to do. That is basically their mandate. Also keep in mind their structure, when it was established, where is it headquarters, what is its motto, what is its impact on India. So this ASEAN is actually was in news it was in news during October. So basically the news was about how there was an India-ASEAN summit, which was the 22nd India-ASEAN summit was actually held in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. There was also the ASEAN summit, which was held again in Malaysia. It was the 47th one. Then there was also the East Asian summit. All these happened in October. It happened in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. So that makes it very, very significant in a current affairs perspective. So this was the news once again. Prime Minister of India participated virtually in the 22nd ASEAN India Summit held in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. The 47th ASEAN Summit was also held between 25 to 28 October of 2025, and the 20th East Asian Summit was also held. Again, it was in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Okay, so these are the topics that we are going to be discussing in this session. So moving on to ASEAN. So ASEAN was actually established in 1967, but there was a small predecessor to ASEAN as well. We will look into that. Its headquarters is in Jakarta, which is in Indonesia. Remember the motto of ASEAN: one vision, one identity and one community. ASEAN is one of the rare cases where regional cooperation has triumphed. EU is another example, but an example in Asia is ASEAN. So their economic growth has been very significant. They are actually propelling the global economy, and how ASEAN centrality. We will look into all those things. These are all keywords. Whenever you are actually writing for UPSC mains, please be ensure that you are using keywords that are used by the foreign policy of the Indian government. Like for example, Act East policy, free, open, inclusive Indo-Pacific. We will look into all those things, but please take care of those aspects as well. So moving on to ASEAN. So like I said before, it consists of 11 members as of now. So the latest member is actually East Timor, or Timor-Leste, which was actually joined in this 47th session of ASEAN Summit, 47th session. Remember the sessions number as well as where it was held. Also remember the that Timor-Leste is actually the 11th member. So remember 11. There are 11 members in ASEAN. Also remember that now all the Southeast Asian nations are now part of ASEAN. Timor, East Timor is the last person. Also, keep in mind another important factor. Papua New Guinea is actually in Oceania. Some people, get confused when they are studying ASEAN, Southeast Asian, that part. Although the island of New Guinea is actually shared between Indonesia and Papua New Guinea, Papua New Guinea is actually a part of the Oceania, that is Australian part of the continent. It is not part of Asia, Southeast Asia. So all the Southeast, the statement comes, all Southeast, Southeast Asian nations are part of ASEAN. That statement is actually correct, because Papua New Guinea, you may think, if you are familiar with the geographical map and all, you may get confused about Papua New Guinea. It might be a Southeast Asian, you might be thinking, but no, it's actually part of Oceania. So technically speaking, all the Southeast Asian nations are now part of the ASEAN grouping. So remember, 11 members. So the 2025 chair, as I mentioned before, it's actually Malaysia. Okay, and the ASEAN summits are usually held biannually. Okay. Okay, so biannual meeting, not biennial. Biennial means once every 2 years. Biannual means In a 1 year, there will be 2 meetings per year. That is biannual. So ASEAN summits are biannual in nature, and the host country will be selected for 1 year, and that country will hold 2 meetings. So the 46th and 47th meeting was held in 2025. It was held in Malaysia. The next year, the chair will be Philippines. So always study the next year as well. Okay. So always study. Previous year also it is suggested that you study, but please study the current year. Please study the next year as well. So 2026 is actually Philippines. It will be the 48th and 49th meeting. Okay, this is the predecessor that I was actually mentioning earlier, Association of Southeast Asia. So Association of Southeast Asia was the predecessor to ASEAN. It was actually created in 1961. Okay, and it had 3 members. They include Thailand, Philippines as well as Malaysia. So remember the 3 members, they were actually Association of Southeast Asian Nations, which was actually a predecessor of ASEAN. It was established in 1961, and in 1967 it metamorphed into ASEAN, which includes more members like Indonesia and Singapore. So you have 5 founding members. Okay, 5 founding members are there for ASEAN. So please keep in mind, these are the founding members. Afterwards, we will study the expansion and which member joined when. But remember, the 5 founding members include Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia, Singapore as well as Malaysia. Okay, so keep that in mind. The agreement was signed in Bangkok. And this is what I said about the biannual meetings. The first summit was in Bali, and it was in the year 1976. Okay. In 2006, now ASEAN has actually observer status with the UN, and UN is also a dialogue partner of ASEAN. So there is a quid pro quo between them. Between UN, that is their relation with UN. Okay, and there is a treaty of amity and cooperation of ASEAN. This is important because it allows for non-ASEAN states to actually join. That's a key point. Because they can give a simple statement, treaty of amity and cooperation under the ASEAN allows only ASEAN states to join, but that statement is wrong. Non-ASEAN states can also join this treaty. Okay, so it requires the contracting parties to forego any threat or use of force against each other. Please keep that in mind. Okay, so this is the background of the creation of ASEAN. So whenever you read, please, this is why I say that you have to read editorials continuously, preferably at least 3 newspapers. So when you read all these editorials, what happens is that you will get the broader context of why an organization was created or what happened during certain time periods. So with that understanding, you can actually solve a lot of questions. At least you can get a hint. Some sort of logical connection can be made. An educated guess can be made with various questions. These kind of information you can only attain only by continuous reading. So please read newspaper and editorials, especially, preferably at least 3 newspapers. You read them continuously. So the background of the creation, it's very important. Please remember this background. Actually, it was actually, just remember the year 1967. During that time, about, America went into Vietnam and it failed. The fall of Saigon was there. North Vietnam and South Vietnam, the conflict was there. About North Vietnam was actually communist and all those things, But US, tried to, influence the creation of a non-communist government, and it failed in 1975. So it was at that time. So Cold War was there. So basically the Western powers tried to create or influence the creation of a group using the Southeast Asia Treaty Organization, or the SEATO, which was kind of like it was modeled on NATO. So it was kind of like an Eastern NATO. So it was during that time, during the push given by these Western powers, some sort of regional integration actually began in, in ASEAN or Southeast Asia. So that is the context. But After the end of Vietnam War, when the US actually failed in Vietnam in 1975, and CETO actually, it declined because US said, okay, we are not going to interfere anymore, and they left that area, Southeast Asia. They went somewhere else, but still they, backtracked from that region. So at that time, these members, they attained some sort of political freedom, right? Because US is now retreating. USSR also, after 1989, Afghanistan, all those issues happened. USSR also, broke. So they got political freedom, and some sort of regional integration base was created with ASEAN. So what happened is that that is how ASEAN actually, got into relevance, or they attained that political sovereignty. So they understood, okay, some sort of economic integration on the model of EU is very beneficial. These are the factors that actually contributed to the success of ASEAN. But then you will see the Asian financial crisis happen in 1997, the Thai crisis, currency crisis also happened. So whenever you study, you need to have these kind of chronology of events in your mind. Only then you can get a comprehensive understanding of certain topics. So with this, you can actually, whenever a question comes, you can actually use bits and pieces and connect and make an educated guess. Okay, so coming back, this is the Southeast Asian Nuclear Free Zone Treaty, or the Bangkok Treaty. It was actually in 1995. So remember the date of most of these treaties. Okay, remember 1995. It took into effect in 2001. Okay, then talking about the expansion, please remember the expansion. The first member after the 5 founding members, the 6th member was Brunei in 1984. Remember, Vietnam was in 1994. Laos and Myanmar joined in 1997. Cambodia is the latest member. Sometimes they may ask the latest member as Cambodia, but that's wrong, because East Timor joined in 2025. So keep in mind the expansion of ASEAN as well. It's very important because 11th member has added in 2025. This is an important piece of information. Okay, so whenever you study these landmarks, so these are kind of like the achievements of ASEAN, please remember the date. This is very crucial because sometimes they may ask the chronology, or it may be useful for your mains. So whenever you study ASEAN, please remember these kind of landmark achievements. For example, they established a free trade area in 1992. They adopted the ASEAN vision. Okay, so whenever these kind of topics come, just understand the broader, the common logic of such kind of vision. So if they ask some broader statements like ASEAN vision aimed at economic integration, socio-cultural cooperation, it seems right? But you need to know the year. Those kind of details cannot be substituted. But the contents of the vision and all, you can actually take a educated guess. But remember the year: 1997, 1992. Okay, and it was formalized in the Bali Concord of 2003. ASEAN Charter is a very important document. It was finalized in 2008. ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights was actually formed in 2009, and they adopted the Human Rights Declaration in 2012. Okay, so remember once again, ASEAN Free Trade Area 1992, then 1997 ASEAN Vision, ASEAN Charter in 2008, Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights of ASEAN was established in 2009. They actually adopted the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration in 2012. Then, like I said before, the chairmanship rotates annually. Currently 2025, it's Malaysia. Next year it is Philippines. Okay, then this is their mandate. They aim this, create a single market, economic integration based on the 4 freedoms. 4 freedoms simply means, labor, capital, goods, services. So essentially based on that, free movement of goods, services, free labor as well as capital. That's the 4 freedoms. That's actually modeled on EU. So basically that's the their mandate. Of ensuring free flow, of goods, services, skilled labor and capital. ASEAN Economic Community was formed in 2015. Okay, So this is basically the structure of ASEAN. Then you have other entities like you have ASEAN plus 3 is there, ASEAN plus 6 is there. ASEAN plus 3 was actually created in 1997. Okay, this was effectively, it includes countries like Japan is there, you have South Korea is there, and then you have China as well. Okay, in ASEAN plus 3. It was formed in 1997. So essentially ASEAN plus 3 is trying to, it's actually an initiative by ASEAN itself to expand the integration by including the nearby economies, China, Japan and South Korea. Right? Okay. It was created in 1997. Okay. The next important terminology that you have to remember is the ASEAN Centrality or the ASEAN Way. ASEAN Centrality is a different concept. ASEAN Way. ASEAN Way simply means that they make their decisions, ASEAN as a whole, they will make their decisions on the basis of consensus. First important point. Second important point, they will not impose decisions on other members, and they will actually take into account the cultural factors when they are taking decisions. And it is one of the many scholars says that many of the global conflicts can actually be resolved if they use the ASEAN Way. ASEAN Way, once again, it allows for the political leaders to avoid embarrassment. They will try to negotiate in a very informal basis. Okay, so it's away from the limelight, away from the public, public eyes. So it allows the political leaders to have a lot of freedom. They can, solve tensions, resolve boundary disputes. So it's very, it's very preferable that such kind of dispute resolution is used by the world. So many people say that the ASEAN Way can help resolve global conflicts because there is no imposition of directives or mandates like that. Okay, and they respect the cultural norms. That is the concept of the ASEAN Way. ASEAN Centrality is a concept actually used by Indian government foreign policy. That's basically the Indo-Pacific region, to ensure the affairs of Indo-Pacific, any matters of Indo-Pacific. The Indian government says that it will be an ASEAN Central, that is ASEAN led. Okay, so it's basically Indian government approves the ASEAN led initiatives in the Indo-Pacific. That's a different concept, but remember the ASEAN Way as well. Okay, now moving on to the East Asia Summit. So like I said, ASEAN plus 3 was actually formed in 1997, and later after a while in 2004 the ASEAN plus 3 summit, they actually decided to expand further, and in 2005 ASEAN plus 6 was actually again created. Okay, so the East Asian Summit is actually a meeting that is held annually by the leaders of 16 countries. Now it's kind of like 17 because it's ASEAN 11 plus 6. Okay, ASEAN plus 6. ASEAN plus 6 includes ASEAN plus 3, that is China, Japan, South Korea. Along with you have countries like India and Australia, as well as New Zealand is also there. So these are the countries in ASEAN plus 6, and later it was expanded to 18 countries, which is now 19. So please keep in mind ASEAN is now a 11 member grouping. In 2011, okay, so in 2011 you have other important countries like US and Russia also joined this grouping in under East Asian Summit. So East Asian Summit now has 19 members. Keep that in mind, 19 members. Okay, 19 members are there in East Asia Summit. East Asia Summit, the forum is held annually, and the first summit was in Malaysia in 2005. Okay, so other important fact related to this is that East Asian Summit or the ASEAN plus 6. Okay, ASEAN plus 6, their meetings are actually in East Asia Summit. Actually, ASEAN plus 6 is there. Then you also have countries like US and Russia in East Asian Summit. Okay, ASEAN plus 6 plus US and Russia is in East Asian Summit. So East Asian Summit, they are actually creating or pushing for the RCEP. Okay, RCEP. So we know that India has not joined RCEP. So East Asian Summit is actually negotiating RCEP, but India is part of the East Asian Summit but not part of the RCEP. So please keep that in mind. So the 20th summit of East Asian Summit was actually held in Kuala Lumpur in 2025. 21st summit is actually in Manila. So the common point is that the host country of ASEAN is also the host country of East Asian Summit as well, because it's actually ASEAN-led initiative. Okay, so this is a sample question for you to try out. Which of the following countries are the founding members of ASEAN? Myanmar is there, Indonesia is there, Singapore is there, Philippines is there, Vietnam is there. So if you look at all these questions, if we know the background in which ASEAN was created in 1967, okay, we can eliminate Vietnam. This is how I mean the educated guess actually is coming. Because you know that Vietnam was actually in the midst of some power struggle between the Cold War. It was kind of like a proxy between USSR and US. And you know that ASEAN was actually an integration that was pushed by the West, especially by SEATO, right? Southeast Asia Treaty Organization. So do you think Vietnam would be part? There is a high likely, not a chance, okay? There is highly unlikely chance that Vietnam will be a founding member of ASEAN. So please, this is the context. If you understand the context, you can use bits and pieces of information and crack certain questions. But then again, Myanmar is there, which is something if you read editorials, you may get a sense, but still you may have some other information to solve that. But Myanmar is not a founding member. Only these three are founding members, which allows you to reach option B, only 3. So you need bits and pieces of information, connect and use information accordingly. But please read continuously, read editorials, read the news continuously, expand your knowledge so that you can use little blocks of information to solve questions. Okay, so this bit is actually for UPSC Mains. So until now we are actually focused on UPSC Prelims, right? Now this kind of information is actually for Mains. In the ASEAN summit was there, and we know that it was the 22nd summit was there, and the PM actually attended virtually. So please remember 22nd. Remember Kuala Lumpur. These are for prelims. For mains, they might ask like, what is the relevance of ASEAN to India, or what are the advantages of India-ASEAN cooperation? So whenever you get questions from international relations, use keywords to establish your point. Use broad headings like economic, then you use a keyword. Basically, that's how you should put your answer, so that there is ease of correction. The person who is correcting it can get a sense that okay, this and this is right. Quick corrections are possible. So please use keywords in international relations questions. So these are the bilateral relations. We see that the formal engagement was in sectoral dialogue partner, which evolved into dialogue partner, which was raised to a summit level in 2002. This was the evolution of the bilateral relations. Okay, then you have the comprehensive strategic partnership was also there. Economic relations, 2020 total trade is about $122 billion. In fact, ASEAN is actually India's 4th largest trading partner. Keep that in mind. Various connectivity projects you will have memory of, like for example the India-Myanmar Thailand trilateral highway, Kaladan multimodal transit project is there, maritime defense cooperation is there, defense meetings are there, joint exercises will be there. Okay, education, India has set up the ASEAN India Center at research and information system for developing countries. So please ensure that you use broader headings and then you write a keyword. Okay, ensure that you put at least one keyword per point, or per most points need a keyword, like for example ASEAN centrality, or the ASEAN way, or the Act East policy, free, inclusive, open Indo-Pacific. Okay, so containing China, that is another aspect. So broadly speaking, ASEAN is kind of like counterweight to China, right? So India has benefits because it can prevent China from crossing over into the Indian Ocean, essentially as a buffer. ASEAN can become an effective buffer between India and China, so that India can become the the resident responsible power in the Indian Ocean. Okay, so these are all important background things to keep in mind. So this is once again the UPSC mains. The syllabus, if you look at the international relations syllabus, there are 4 micro topics for international relations, and they can ask under the Indian neighborhood a bit, they can ask it as regional grouping, right? ASEAN is a regional grouping affecting India's interest. They can ask effect of policies of developing countries, right? These are all developing countries, right? International institution agencies, it's an international agency, right? So their structure, mandate all can be asked. Here is a sample question for you to just check. Evaluate the role of ASEAN in shaping India's Act East policy. How has ASEAN-Indian cooperation evolved in political, economic and strategic domains since the 1990s? So 50 markers, so 1.5 should be like evaluation. Since they ask evaluation, you kind of need to evaluate, right? So you have to write ASEAN has shaped India's Act East policy. Act East policy, for context, it was actually launched in 2014, right? By Prime Minister Modi government in 2014 from Look East became Act East. So in 2014. So what does that mean? It means more proactiveness. It means process oriented, outcome oriented, mission oriented. These are all keywords from that policy document. So that is the Act East policy. Then you evaluate. ASEAN has helped shape, boost the Act East policy. You write certain points from ASEAN relations. But take care that in the next section, you have to write political, economic and strategic cooperation with ASEAN. So don't write many points that actually may create an overlap with the second part of the question. Okay? Ensure that your answer is not repetitive. Okay? So first section, then you write the limitations, right? Because you have to, they asked evaluate. So you write, okay, there are certain limitations to ASEAN and Act East policy. Yeah, because you have we have a trade deficit with them, so it creates a reroute for China, rules of origin misused by China origin goods, which actually impacts our trade deficit. Then you can mention how the ASEAN is actually forcing us to join the RCEP, which may be China dominated. Then no solid gains with various countries, like for example Cambodia and certain countries not supporting the Operation Sindoor, that also can be quoted. So all these things can be done and you can evaluate, right? So plus and minus. So the second part, so 1.5 you write that. The next 1.5, since it is a 50 marker, you have 3 pages. So the next 1.5 should be ASEAN-India cooperation's evolution across political, economic and strategic domains since the 1990s. So political domain, you can write that bilateral, first they became strategic partner, then you have comprehensive partner. Okay, that evolution you can mention. Then you can economic, you can say how an FTA was formed, then various merchandise that are being imported, exported. Strategic domain, you can actually mention about Look East became Act East. Okay, ASEAN centrality can be mentioned here. ASEAN centrality is an important keyword, please mention that. Then you can ASEAN way also can be mentioned. So please ensure that you write using keywords in international relations. Use examples with real instances, real life instances you can mention. So that is about UPSC mains as well. So these are all just to give you a hint as to what the syllabus looks like. So whenever you study, ensure that you keep in mind the main syllabus as well. Also read continuously, read the editorials, and if you have doubt regarding the patterns and how UPSC is asking for prelims, please watch the earlier videos regarding the discussion of the patterns of UPSC. Okay, that's all from my side. See you in the next session. Thank you.